My name is Joe Peroni, and this is the Rise Above Project. And as promised, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you about 4 stories. And those are going to illustrate the 3 easy rules in order to increase your chances of having a good relationship. These rules are really simple. Number 1, know who you are. Number 2, follow your own path. And number 3, once you can do those 2, then let others fall in line with who you are and what your path is. Once you can do that, it leads to 3 easy rules after that, which would be, number 1, you want to be happy and fulfilled as a single person. Going back to the beginning, if you know who you are and you follow your own path, you will most likely be happy and fulfilled as a single person. From there, you do not want to get involved with someone who is not happy and fulfilled in their life. Don't take on a project. They need to fix themselves first. And then you can both join together and share your lives together. And the third part to that is you want to attract a person and accept a person into your life who appreciates you for who you are and supports your growth. Again, goes back to the original rule. You want to know who you are and follow your own path. So it doesn't make sense to put somebody in your life who doesn't appreciate you and who doesn't support your growth. It's not going to make sense. So these 4 stories I want to give you, real simple. The first one actually is a joke that my father told me when I was probably about 10 years old. And for some reason I remember this because the way I use this joke as I have been getting older is it says exactly according to what the rules I've been already talking about. It illustrates that. Now, here's the joke, and it's not that funny, but it is what it is, and I think it says a lot though. So, my father will ask me the question, and the question was, so how do you kill a blue elephant? And my answer to him was, I have no idea. How do you kill a blue elephant? He says, well, it's easy. If you want to kill a blue elephant, you have to use a blue elephant gun. I said, okay, well, like I said, it's not that funny, but it makes sense. So then the second part of the question, my father would ask me, how do you kill a pink elephant? I go, well, you just gave me the answer. I would kill a pink elephant with a pink elephant gun. And he said, no, what if you do not have a pink elephant gun? I said, well, then I guess I die. He goes, but that's not acceptable. So he goes, you got to figure out something else. So I said, I don't know. He said, what you do is that you go over to the pink elephant, you choke him as hard as you can until he turns blue, and then you get the blue elephant gun that you do have, and then you shoot him. And then that's how you win. Now, okay, it's not that funny. I get it. But here's the thing, what does it really mean? It means that as you go through life, you have to move people into your power zone. You're not going to be successful in life if you are always a fish out of water. So you have to go to places and be with people where you're going to have your best chances to succeed. Now, I'll give you an example of this. When I was very young, there was many times where I felt where I was a fish out of water, and I was wondering why I had no self-esteem, I had no confidence, and I wasn't successful in certain areas. And the reason for that is because I was not in places that were conducive to where all my talents were. And so I was a loser in some of these places, and I took it personally. And I thought, if I'm not good here, I'm not good anywhere. So it took a long time for me to get back up on my feet. And I'll give you an example. I tend to be a very extroverted, introverted guy. Or I wouldn't even say bordering on shy. I would say I'm extremely shy, especially when I was young. Now, let's talk about on Long Island, where there's a lot of rich people on Long Island. And we're talking about the 80s, where there were dance clubs everywhere. And there's a couple of things that are important that if you want to succeed in getting girls or starting a relationship in a dance club. Number 1, you have to compete with all the cuisine guys, all the Italian guys that have a lot of money. Now, they acted like they had a lot of money, and the girls were impressed that they had a lot of money, but most of them got all their money from their family. But nobody cared about that. They just cared that they drove up in the nice cars. They had all the expensive jewelry. They had the great clothing. And they had some other things. They were extroverted. They were very slick when it came to dancing, and I was way too introverted for that, so I didn't dance. How do you do well in a dance club when you don't dance? You don't. So some of the guys who are not into dancing, what can they do? Well, they're at a club, a bar, they drink. So they know what drinks they like, they're totally into it, and they could order drinks for girls. And I didn't drink. I've never been drunk a day in my life. So why was I even there? Other than the fact that I had a lot of friends that were there and that was the thing to do. But I was a complete and utter failure because I was a fish out of water. I didn't have the right clothes, the right jewelry, the right car. I didn't know how to dance, and I didn't want to dance because I was scared to death. And so therefore, I couldn't even bring up a conversation with girls, so I felt like a loser every time I went. However, as I got a little bit older, and I became a personal trainer, guess what? When you're a personal trainer in a gym and you know what you're doing and you feel comfortable and you look good and people go to the trainers for help, you're like a doctor that's in a hospital. Now all of a sudden you're not a fish out of water, you're exactly where you should be. And so that comfortability there made me a winner. And so it brings up my confidence. So again, what you want to do is you want to put yourself in the best possible position to do well. And how do you do that? Back to the original rules. Know who you are. Was I a drinker? No. Was I a dancer? No. Did I try to impress people by my gift of gab and try to, get a quick conversation with the girl who couldn't hear you anyway because the music was too loud? It was not my scene at all. So I ruined the first rule. I didn't know who I was, number one. I was not following my own path. And no one was going to fall in line with me. Who wants to be with a guy in a dance club who doesn't dance, doesn't drink, and doesn't wear the right clothes? Utter failure. I was just in the wrong place. I wasn't a failure as a human. I just put myself in the wrong place. So that's story number one, coming from a joke from my father. The second one I want to talk about is a football player. His name is Bam Morris. He's retired now for many years. He was a good football player. I wouldn't say he was a great football player, but he was good. He was really good. He was at the end of his career, and he was a big, strong guy. He was a running back. But he knew that at that time of his career, he did not have breakaway speed. And he didn't lie to anybody. He said, I want to play one more year. And I want to get on a team that could use my services. Well, what would his services be? As a football player who's aging, who has lost his speed, but still has power and strength. He just told everybody right up front. He said, listen, I want to play. And I'm going to train hard. I'll be ready to play. I will be in great shape. If you need a guy that can get you 1 yard, I'll get you 2 yards. If you need a guy to get you 2 yards, I'll get you 2 yards. If you need a guy to get you 3 yards, I'll get you 2 yards. So his point is that he had enough power to push everybody forward, fall down, and get 2 yards. So if you needed his services for a 4th and goal, let's say, 4th and 1, he was your guy. He said, I will get that done for you. If you need 3 yards where you need somebody to be a little bit quicker to avoid somebody to move forward, I'm not your guy. So don't pay me. And I don't want the money because I don't want everybody being disappointed in me. So again, Bam Morris, good football player, but probably even a better human being. So again, what does this illustrate? Number one, he knew who he was. He followed his own path. And he let people fall in line with him. And he did get some offers, and he did end up playing. Number 3, let's talk about the band AC/DC. The guitar player, the main guitar player, the lead guitar player is Angus Young. Now this was in Rolling Stone magazine back in the day when Rolling Stone was a big deal, and I was a subscriber to that, and many people were as well. AC/DC had just come out with a brand new album. And I was reading the interview on this. And the writer for Rolling Stone was talking to Angus Young. And he said, I just finished listening to your album. He goes, I'm really disappointed in it. He said, because I've seen no musical growth in you or your band. And from what I can tell, he said, this is the 12th album in a row that you've come out with the same exact style and the same exact music. What did Angus Young say? He said to this reporter, I'm extremely disappointed in you. You're supposed to be a professional. If you're a professional in the music scene, writing for Rolling Stone magazine, you think that you would get your facts in order and you would know what you're talking about. He said, you have no idea what you're talking about right now. And the reason why I'm saying that is because we don't have 12 albums that sound exactly the same. We have 14 albums that sound exactly the same. What does that prove to you? What does that illustrate? Angus Young and AC/DC understood from a very early time in their career. They did a couple of things well. They basically have the same beat in every song, and they play 3 basic chords, and every beginning guitar player knows the pentatonic scale. That's all they do, but they do it really well. And so his point is that every AC/DC album that comes out is going to have the same formula. They're not looking to grow. They know who their audience is, and they know who they are. Therefore, there's the other part of the rules. They know who they are. They know who their clientele is. They know who their followers are. They follow their own path. They never went out of their way to do rap music. They don't do improvisational jazz. They don't go out of their way to do anything different, really. They just switch up the same 3 basic chords here and there with a little more emphasis. That's about all they do. But they let everybody fall in line with them because they're one of the most successful bands in music history. And so they did it the right way. They never tried to be anything that they weren't. Let me use a 4th example. My favorite band in the world is The Who. Keith Moon was their drummer. Unfortunately, he died in 1978 at 32 years old. Their last album together as the original 4 members was Who Are You? And Keith Moon was having a little bit of difficulty on one of the songs. It was called Music Must Change. And they kept trying to record this, but he couldn't get this one beat down. He was having difficulty. It was a little bit out of his comfort zone of what he usually plays. So the other guys in the band suggested that he sit out, and they were going to hire a session drummer to come in to record that for the band so they can get the album done. And Keith Moon would say, and he has said, that I don't have any aspirations of being a great drummer. I just want to be a great drummer for The Who. There's a difference. And he said, if you decide to replace me for this song, then I quit the band because it means you don't want me. And he goes, you need to know, I am the best Keith Moon style drummer in the world. And either you want me or you don't want me. Now, when I read this story, I thought, what an incredible amount of self-esteem and confidence he had. Because what if we could all do that in relationships where somebody discards us, or somebody says that we're not good enough, or we're just not, things aren't working out, and they leave us. If you had the attitude to say, you are the best version of you in the world, and therefore, if that other person can't appreciate you, then let them go. They're doing you a favor. We would all be much better off, right? And I've thought about this in my life a lot of times. I might not be the greatest at, you name it, but I could say, I am the greatest Joe Peroni styled person at what I'm doing right now. Therefore, you either love me or you don't. And I thought this was really great that Keith Moon said that. And if anybody wondering what The Who did, because Keith Moon ended up dying, by the way, but for the Who Are You album, if you listen to the song Music Must Change, Keith Moon does not play on that song, but they never got another drummer to replace him either. So when you listen to that song, there are no drums on that song. And that was the respect that the band showed him, is that when you go back and listen to it, it's almost like the presence of Keith Moon being there, not playing, is almost more important and more powerful than if he actually did play. Because that silence is deafening, because behind that silence is a guy who is having a tough day and said, I don't care if I'm having a tough day, you don't replace me. I will not allow that to happen. And the other guys just let him do his thing, and they recorded what they needed to record. So again, quick review. Those 4 stories, I hope they help you out. They all lead to the same exact thing that I'm trying to tell everybody. Now this is for men and women alike, but I do know a lot of men out there that are always so afraid that they just don't impress girls, and it's so hard for them to do that, especially in this day and age when a lot of these things are done online on these apps where women get a tremendous amount of choices and men do not get a lot of choices. Well, it doesn't matter when you get down to it. Again, know who you are. Follow your own path. If you do that, you'll be happy and fulfilled as a human yourself. Eventually, people will follow in line behind you. Stop trying to be a fish out of water. Don't try to impress people that it doesn't matter if you impress them or not. Be the best version of you. Just like Keith Moon said, he's the best Keith Moon style drummer in the world. Well, you're the best whoever you are in the world too. Hopefully this has been helpful in some way. My name is Joe Peroni and this is the Rise Above Project. Please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.